Hi everybody, Martyn Harvey here again, children's author, illustrator, and I'm writing a book, developing a book based in Parkgate with lots of Parkgate scenery in it. Now, you've seen other introductory videos in this series, and this is the third video in the series. In the last one, I showed you how I painted and drew, inked and painted John, the landlord from the Red Lion, scanned him into my computer, and then added him into one of the scenes digitally. And here we get in a minute. I'm just going to show you a little bit more about that. But in this video today, we're going to do the same sort of thing. It's only going to be a shorter video, but I'm going to be showing you exactly how I do the same thing to this lady. This is Diane from the Red Lion in Parkgate, and today I'm going to be turning her into a cartoon character and putting her in my book. Okay, hope you enjoy. Okay, so first things first, here's my working copy of Squiggly Pete and the Curse of the Monster Zombie Mushy Peas. This is the cover I've developed, and inside there's all the various pages which are printed out and stuck together, along with my notes scribbled all over, things I've still yet to finish and improve. There's the pirate ship, the boathouse, there's the chip shop in Parkgate. Of course you'll recognise all this scenery. And if you've been following on Facebook, you'll also have seen a lot of these pictures already. There's Mostyn House, the giant mushy pea machine. There it is, dishing out the mushy peas. The elephant lounge, the chip shop again, and of course the mushy peas all building up inside the chip shop, ready to explode. And here we go. The chap who runs the chip shop's left the mushy pea machine running, and there's mushy peas everywhere. Come on, says Lucy, we've got to help. And so on and so on. They tried to go round the back, and suddenly there's a massive explosion, boom! And that's where this little section I'm talking about today comes in. Okay, so here we have the mushy peas exploding out onto the street and up into the air and cascading down everywhere. Now, this double-page spread looks like this. There's a tidier version for you. And straight after that, I wanted to have Squiggly Pete and the crew. No, that's Fishfinger Fred, by the way. He's another character. I'll explain about him elsewhere. But I wanted to have some more characters in here. We've got some empty spaces here. And even though I don't want to fill it up, it would be nice to have some extra people there. So I thought, aha, who would be great to get in there? And of course, because we're outside the Red Lion in Parkgate, I thought, well, let's ask the staff if they want to get involved. So I went along and asked John, and he said, yes, we'd love to do that. And we took some photographs, which you've seen more about in the other video. And to cut a long story short, I then took the photographs home, did some sketching. There's a sketch of John, and whoops, I think that's Donna, and whoops, that's Squiggly Pete, and Diane from the Red Lion. Now, this was my original sketch, which I took from the photographs. I put the photograph on the screen and I just sort of tried to extract the essence of that person. It doesn't look exactly like the person. It's just supposed to be like a cartoon character influenced by that person. Okay. Now, in the last video, I showed you how we took the sketch of John and worked it up into this finished piece of artwork in watercolour, and how we digitally scanned it in and popped it into the picture. Right. So there's the page as it stood before, and here's my little scribbly version. I often do a little sketch and then cut it out with good old-fashioned scissors and glue and stick it in just as a notepad to remind myself of what I wanted to do. So I wanted to have some characters outside the pub here reacting to the mushy peas, and that's why we took the photographs. And you've seen the drawing, the finished work, and here, printed out today, is the first version of the final picture, with our friend John the landlord actually in it, standing just behind Fishfinger Fred there, pointing up at the mushy peas. Okay, so that's as far as we've got. Today, in the next part of this video, I'm going to be taking this sketch of Diane, and I'm going to be inking that, and then painting it, and then scanning it in and popping it into the same picture. Probably about here or here. I can move these characters over, you see. Little Jack could go on that page, so I've got plenty of room to play with, because in the computer the background is one big picture, and all these characters, including the bats and the people, are sort of stuck on digitally, but I can move them around. So anyway, let's see how that goes. Okay, let's go. Okay, so here we go. This is a little holder I use. There's the Windsor and Newton ink, and sometimes I use Kandahar Indian ink, and I put it in this little holder, which usually uses those scented sticks, so it's really useful. And a £3.99 Sainsbury's special cartridge pen. Now I used to use the scratchy, pointy pens, but when you're doing this sort of thing, I think that I'm explaining that this is a photocopy stuck on the back of the drawing. And yes, so basically I'm just saying here that what I've done is I can hardly keep up with this. Anyway, so what's going on? Anyway, so basically photocopy, stick a piece of paper on the front, pencil over it, and then I'm using my special Sainsbury's £3.99 pen. I did use the old scratchy dip pen things, but they're very, very, very scratchy. They're really traditional, but they're very, very scratchy when you're using them on this sort of paper. Fine if you're using just like very, very plain paper, but when you're using them on this watercolour, the nib sort of digs in. Anyway, so I found, after lots of experimentation, using a plain old school cartridge pen just dipped in the ink works really, really well. Now I believe Quentin Blake, the amazing famous illustrator, uses this method as well. I read about it somewhere, but I didn't know what sort of cartridge pen he uses. Maybe it's just a cheap Sainsbury's one, who knows. Okay, so as when I'm sketching, when I'm inking or painting, I always start with the eyes, and I love to see the character come to life. And here we see Di's face starting to take shape, and she's coming to life, pointing up. Oh no, there's mushy peas everywhere. I'm sure she doesn't use a Cornish accent, but you know, I'm from Cornwall originally, by the way, in case you hadn't guessed. Now, okay, look, so just a few little lines to define the shape of her hair. And as you can see, I'm rotating the paper this way and that. And the reason for that is that, you know, having taken the trouble to try to get these lines right, you don't want the big palm print smudging it all over the paper. So I rotate it so that my hand doesn't accidentally smudge what I've just inked. It's quite an interesting process watching this. Even though I've drawn the pencil outline, you know, I've done the pencil sketch in the first place, then photocopied it, and then traced it, and then I'm inking it again. So I've done it, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know how many times. Each time can be slightly different. It's really strange. A little squiggle here or a squiggle there can change the mood of a painting, especially in the facial features. You know, with a tiny squiggle out of place, you can change what looks like a surprised expression into a frown. You know, so you've got to be careful. Anyway, so usually what happens is once I've done that original pencil sketch, you know, the pencil sketch is the exploratory bit. You know, I'm sort of working out what I want to bring out of that character, what gesture I want them to have, which way are the thumbs, you know. Well, of course, if I'm taking it from a photograph, as in this case, that's actually really easy, because I can see, you know, you can see on the photograph where the thumbs are. But when you have to imagine a character and draw from your imagination, you have to think, well, which way would their hands point and where would their thumbs be if they're in this position? So very often I'll adopt the position myself and have a look and say, oh yeah, my thumbs are pointing out, therefore, you know. And it all helps. You know, I know Mickey Mouse has got 3 fingers and he does, you know, Walt Disney manages to do everything he needs to with those 3 fingers, but I think my characters have all 5 fingers, well, the human ones. So it helps to know which way the thumbs are pointing. It helps with the gesture. That's one of the really interesting parts about, you know, aspects of this job, learning about things like gestures, you know, learning to turn, even drawing a cartoon person. I think the skill of making a successful cartoon is in translating human actions, gestures, emotions even, into pen and ink, paper, paint. Yeah, it's a magic sort of thing. I enjoy it. Okay, it's a few lines. Nearly there. A few more squiggles and we'll be done. I hope Di's enjoying watching this. Must be quite nerve-wracking in a way to sort of see yourself appear on paper as a caricature. Right, I think that's it. Stop, stop. Never satisfied, see? Always trying to perfect. Stop, stop. Yes, I think I've got it. No. Oh, yeah, I see. A little bit obsessive detail about detail there. Right, there we go. Oh, I have got it. That's fine. Okay, so what happens next, Mark? Well, we'll put the stopper back on the bottle so we don't spill that all over the desk, and then we have to clean the pen. There we are. It's a nice clean pen. Give the pen a good wiggle. Okay, that's enough. And a little wipe. There we go. Put the top on the... I've learned through bitter experience not to leave liquids around on the desk without tops on. You don't want to get that in your laptop. So anyway, there we go. Nice clean fresh water, standard water, nothing special there. And here's my paints. Okay, the scruffy old paint box, Winsor and Newton it started off as. I think most of those half pans and the full pan of light yellow ochre have been replaced with Sennelier watercolours, which are sort of top quality, you know, expensive stuff. The thing is with those little pans, they can cost up to £10 a piece. They're usually about, say, £5.95 to £7, £8, maybe £9. But they last forever. Some of those pans and they've been in there a couple of years, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of paintings with them. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just rubbing out the last little bits, the last remnants of the pencil, the original pencil tracing. I'm just blowing the bits onto the floor. Give it a quick wipe, and we're ready to paint. Now, as always, I always go for the flesh colours first, because that sort of puts the character together. After that, you know, filling in the clothes is easy. But you want to get the flesh parts right, and basically what I do is I mix up a general purpose flesh colour, depending on the colour of the person's skin, using yellow ochre and a dab of this paint called Winsor Red. It could be lots of different reds, but this is Winsor Red because that's what came with the set in the first place. And I found it's quite a nice one to use. Very bright, vibrant red. If you want to make it darker, you can use in some more yellow. You can dab in some more yellow ochre, raw sienna, burnt sienna, raw umber, burnt umber. Depends how dark you want to make the skin. Right, so first thing to do is just do one layer, and you basically just, it's like painting by numbers. Once you've done this as much as I have, it really is like colouring in. And as I said in one of the other videos, I'm thinking about doing some classes in this. If anyone's interested, message me, let me know. Add it in the comments. Maybe for children, maybe for adults, or maybe for both, in just how to cartoon. I learnt from my great uncle Will, who was a Welsh chap, and he also taught me to play violin. And when I went along for my violin lessons, he'd make me play one string, up bow, down bow, over and over for about half an hour at a time. I remember, I think it started with the A string. He made me practice that half an hour at a time, up bow, down bow. And I think the next week I learnt the D string, and so on. Then the E. Oh, here we are, a little bit of hairdryer. This is what I use to speed it up, because I'm filming this. Hold on a second. As I said, because I'm speeding this up, and rather than sit here for 5 minutes just waiting for the paint to dry, I'll use a little bit of hairdryer there. Keep it under my desk on a little hook, just like they do in the hairdresser's salon. Anyway, so as I was saying, my great uncle Will, I used to go around for a violin lesson, and he was a fantastic watercolour painter and cartoonist, and he used to teach me a little bit here and there. We'd probably do, say, an hour's violin lesson and 10-15 minutes of painting. And he was He was a fantastic painter, fantastic. You know, this is when we were young. Well, I was young, aged about 10, living in Cornwall. He moved to Cornwall, and that's where he lived. But he was Welsh originally, and he'd sit there and whistle and smoke, and with his little roll-ups and a few pencils and watercolour paints. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be fantastic to be able to paint like that? And I suppose these days it's me. I mean, I'm not smoking, but you know, dabbling around with the watercolours. And in recognition of that, I've actually put a dedication in this book. I'm actually dedicating this book to my Uncle Will. He wasn't my real uncle, he was my great uncle. Okay, so here we are using a slightly darker version of the same paint just to sort of sculpt, just to bring the 3D effect. Just to bring the 3D effect to the painting. Just a little bit of detail around the eyes there. I think that's that section done. So now, I think it's just a question of painting the clothes. I know, it's going for some more yellow ochre. What's going on here? Oh, it's doing the hair, yeah. So there's Di's blonde hair in a ponytail. Just a few strokes of plain yellow ochre on its own, leaving some of the paper white. That's all we need. And she's wearing a floral dress with some lovely little yellow and white daisy-like flowers on a black background. So just popping a little bit of yellow ochre in there. And now for a t-shirt, we're using a Payne's Grey, my favourite grey. It's got all the colours in the universe in that grey. Okay, so first of all, one layer, just sweep the paint around, keep it moving. It dries quite quickly. Well, the watercolour paper can dry very, very quickly, so basically move it around quite quickly, otherwise it dries before you can finish, and then you're left with effects you don't want. And I think that's what happened in this case right here, actually. And you'll see me making remedial. That's a shame. I'll probably get the hairdryer out again. Dry it off and then, yep, there we go. Dry it off and then try and sort of feather over that area. Anyway, it won't matter too much because I'll be adding more layers of paint in a minute. Right, now we're using the same Payne's Grey. Remembering to keep it moving this time. There we go, to do Di's apron. And then the black parts of the skirt. There we go. Same Payne's Grey. And what I'll probably do in a second is dip it back into the paint box, get a little bit more density on the brush of that same grey. Let's do the shoes, a little bit of shadow. Yes, there we go, going for a little bit more dense Payne's Grey. Just checking on the paper, it's the right sort of colour. Yes, and here we are, adding it into the t-shirt or crop top or whatever you ladies call it. And again, I'm doing the shadow on the right hand side just to give shape, three-dimensional shape there. Going to leave the apron light grey, but make the black bits in the skirt nice and black. I say black, it's actually Payne's Grey again. As I said, I love this colour. It's got hints of blue in it, so it's not exactly pure grey, and it goes alongside the flesh colours really nicely. It doesn't look like flat grey. It's a lovely, lovely colour. I use it quite a lot for all kinds of things. Okay, I'll just use a little bit more to finish off the shoes. That's pretty much it. few more shadows. Done yet, Mr. Harvey? Come on, stop, stop. This is the problem when you're obsessive about detail. And as I said in one of the other videos, so this is one of the reasons why this book is taking so long, because even though it just takes a few minutes to do each sketch, when you're a bit of a perfectionist like I am, you don't just spend extra time on the little details in the painting and the drawing. You spend lots of time in the details and the editing and the, you know, the digital aspects of it as well. Yep, there we go, hairdryer again, hold on. And that's pretty much it. Oh no. Leave it alone, stop. Oh yes, I think I know what he's going to do. I think in the photo Di's got some bright red lipstick on. So yes, just a tiny little dab of lipstick just to finish the thing off. And as you can see, I'm rotating it around so that I don't smudge what I've just done. Is that it? Is he going to leave it there? No! No, he's gone back to the red. Oh dear, here we go. The thing is with watercolour paints, once you've painted something on, it's hard, you can remove it. You can sort of undo it if you want to, sort of, but it leaves a residue of the paint there. And one of the nice things about watercolours is leaving the clean paper or the clean first layer of paint. There's an art. Well, you know, there's obviously an art to this, and one of the nice things about it is to keep it looking fresh and spontaneous, and as if you've just taken a few seconds to paint it, is not having to remove mistakes or paint over them. You can paint over them using, say, acrylic paints with white in them, but then it builds up and the whole thing gets heavier and heavier, and it's nice when you just get it right first time. Of course, with oil paints, you can paint over and paint over and paint over. And the old oil, painters for hundreds of years have reused canvases, Van Gogh, and all the old Italian masters. They all sort of, when they ran out of canvas, they turn it over and paint on the other side, and then sometimes paint over things they'd painted previously. And of course, all the the Renaissance and all the Baroque painters and neoclassicals and whatever, they paint their composition and have their figures in one sort of position, and then they think, oh, hang on a minute, let's put the arm the other side, let's put it that way, blah blah blah. And they literally paint over. And these days you can tell by X-raying the painting, and you can actually see what the underlying layers are, or were in the first place, which is quite revealing. But of course you can't do that with watercolour, because it's such a thin, delicate medium. But there you go. Come on, Martyn, stop. No, that's enough. Yes. I'm glad you agree with me. Right. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to get a very sharp blade. Be careful with these. I actually stabbed myself in the finger with this a few days ago. Bled quite a bit. Right, just removing the sellotape there, separating the photocopy, which I no longer need. And that's it. Pretty much done. There you go. So the next part of the process is to scan this into the computer. There's my messy but creative desk workspace. And over here I've got a Canon TS 5051. Nothing special at all, just your average home common or garden printer, scanner, copier all in one. But this thing has been fantastic. I mean, I've hammered this. I've been printing leaflets about Squiggly Pete and the other books and so on, and sending them out as flyers and blah blah blah. There's so much scanning and printing on this little thing. Now I'm putting some heavy books on top just to keep the watercolour paper down so we don't get creases in it. Okay, so here we are at the computer, and here we go. Right. Now, okay, so you just saw me pop the picture under the scanner. Where's my scanner software? Here we go. So the next thing to do is to open up my little scanning software. Now that's left over from the last time I used it, so we're just going to click preview, and the scanner's going to whiz up and down, taking a photo of the picture, turning it into digital bits and pieces, and there we go. And there's Diane. And I'm going to say use my Squiggly Pete settings. I've adjusted it to make sure the colours are scanned properly, and I don't want that grubby piece of cardboard behind. I just want the nice clean picture here. 300 dots per inch DPI, and off we go. Scan away. Thank you for your patience. Bing, and there we go. Okay, so let's give this file a name. I'm going to call it Diane Red Lion. I give all my files meaningful names, because when I've got hundreds and hundreds of files to search through, I need to find something. If I'm thinking for, oh, who are the people from the Red Lion? I'll just type in Red Lion in the search box and this will come up. If I think, you know, someone called John, John will come up. If I'm looking for Squiggly Pete, I'll put in Pete. So all my files have specific names, as you can see. It helps me to find things, and as you can see there are hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds of pictures. Okie doke, right, so there's our picture, and we're just going to say open that with Photoshop. Now I've already got Photoshop open in the background here. I was working with these two pictures. I'm going to save that. I had to clear a bit of space on my hard disk because it was completely full. So here we go, I'm hammering the computer now, it's trying to save things at the same time as open the other thing. Right, taking its time, here we go. Now the file type here, in case you're interested, is a JPEG, or JPG. Can't remember what it stands for, something like Joint Photographers Conglomerate or something. It was a file format developed in the 70s, I think. Okay, so there's Diane, nice and colourful. Hold on a minute, I've got a bit of background noise, so I'll just pause this a second. Okay, sorry about that, a little bit of background noise. So where were we? Okay, so we've scanned in Diane here, and there we are. We can zoom in on all the details. And if you see, I've left little bits of white here and there. That sort of makes it sort of more lively. So it's just not all flat colour. We've got a little bit of the green luminescence from the glow of the monster zombie mushy peas here, and mainly Payne's grey for the clothes. In fact, it's pretty much all Payne's grey, a little bit of yellow ochre in the flowers down here. But you can see how versatile that grey is. It's a lovely, lovely watercolour paint. You can go from very light greys here into dark, deep shadows and so on. Okay, so and I always find it fascinating when with watercolours, you can sort of zoom in and see all the details. There we are, I've added some shoelaces. Okay, right, so the next next thing to do is to cut this out. So I'm going to get my lasso tool in Photoshop and just whiz round roughly like this. And there we go. There we go. And then I use keyboard shortcuts all the time, so copy and paste. I won't go into the boring details of showing you the menu options. You know, we'll do other things on Photoshop, and there's lots of videos on Photoshop elsewhere. Okay, so again, we've got two Dianes now, one with a bit of white paper around, and what I'm going to do is take a dark colour here with my eyedropper tool and do a rectangle, so that's shortcut U for a rectangle shape there, nice black one, and I'm going to put that in the layer behind. See, Photoshop works on the basis of layers. It's like having different pieces of paper on top, like say, oh, I can't do it, you're not on screen. Okay, anyway, so various layers. Here's the top layer, here's another layer, and the background layer is the actual original watercolour itself. Okay, so there's my black rectangle, I'm going to use my W magic tool, my wand. Don't know why I didn't remember it yesterday, but anyway. So I've set the tolerance to, I think, about, yeah, 15. It can go even lower because I'm only really selecting the pixels that are white or nearly white. So if I click there, you see it's selected everything. The thing is, when you have the tolerance that low, it doesn't select these pixels. You see I've got a rough edge there. So let's make the tolerance a bit higher, and then hopefully it'll select more. So I'm just going to click on the flesh for the minute and then go back to the white again, and can you see now it's selected a more even line? That's because I set the tolerance to a higher value there. Okay, so it's selecting more levels of white. It's going from complete white to off-white, if you like. Right, okay, so that's pretty much okay. If I just whiz out to have a look. Okay, there's a couple of areas here. For example, I don't want that piece of white to go missing there. I want to keep that in because that's light on the leg. So I get my lasso tool again and try to remember which way around to do it. I think I want to take this away from the selection. So I'll just select that bit of white there. There we go. So that's added that into the selection. We've got some things to tidy up here, little blobs of paint hanging out the edge and so on, but that's fine. Hands okay. Right, so you've got to be careful here because this is where you can lose bits of white that you want. So I actually want that bit of white there because that's part of the cheek. Everything else looks okay. I see it's all the attention to these sorts of details that take up all.
From laptop.
Oh, excuse me, that's my Alexa butting in. Okay, and I want this little bit of shadow here as well, actually. So I'm just going to add that back in. I'll probably erase it later, but I don't like losing bits that I've painted for a reason. Okay, oh, and this white area here, which looks like a sock. I do actually need that. Right, and I don't need the white inside the laces there. So again, my magic wand tool, W. Select that, and now magically, if I just go hit my delete key, boom, there we go. And there's Diane cut out, ready to be popped into the painting. So I'm just going to save that. Diane Red Lion, and as I said, I've got a filing system. OUTSELL is short for isolated, which means you've cut out everything. 01A, which means the first version, iteration A. And I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file. Okay, now I won't go into all the details here, but I need to do some cleaning up. Can you see some of the rough edges around that? So what I'll do now is I'll get my eraser tool, which is this little thing here, and I'll just go around and clean up a little bit. Now I'm going to skip all of this because this can take... In fact, this is the thing that takes most of the time when I'm cleaning up my work for Photoshop, in Photoshop, ready to go into the book. Now there's lots of ways I could refine the cutting out process, but you usually find if you refine it to do one thing, something else suffers. So, and also it depends here how much you want to tidy up. It depends on the colour of the background you're going to pop it onto. See, if I was going to pop this straight onto a black background like that, then obviously you're going to see all these white bits sticking out. But if it was on a white background, you wouldn't need to clean this up at all. So we'll see. Okay, so I'll just save that. Now, I'll come back and clean that up later, but what I'm going to do now, just to speed this up, is I'm going to show you how I drop that into the picture. Now, if you remember, we had our picture of the crew outside the Red Lion, and there's John already done, and I'm itching to see how this is going to look, so I'm just going to drop it in a minute and then we'll clean it up again later. So just drag and drop from one file to another. There we go. Now I'm going to bring Diane right to the foreground and clone her. There we go, we've got two now, and I'm going to give these layers a name. I always name it Orig for original, which means the raw artwork, before I start cleaning things up. And this is a spare one. Okay, let's make that full screen so you can see what's going on. And I can put Diane anywhere. So we could have her here, say behind Squiggly Pete. I'm just working out the layers at the moment. You see, she could be in there, a bit large. It's not bad actually, I quite like that. She could be over here. Now you see how she's disappeared behind the layers of mushy peas there, so do you get the idea? You can see what's happening, can't you? I've got lots of layers here. If I bring her to the front, another keyboard shortcut, I could do something like that. But it's all a matter of getting the perspective right, and the size and the dimensions and everything. And what I'll probably do is shrink Diane back a bit so it's more like the original photo. I could have her over here, which would be interesting, or over here as in the original photo maybe. And you've got to remember sort of details like the size of comparative size of people's heads and so on. Right, let's just pop her in there for the minute. I'm going to put her down in the layers. This picture's got hundreds of layers, lots and lots of different bits and pieces. Ah, there we go. Right, so that's close to what I want. Yeah, something like that. There we go. Yeah, quite like that. Like that. Of course, I've got a rat here now, which is running over her shoe, but that's okay, we can sort that out. So there we go. I'll just zoom in so you can see. That's pretty much it. There we go. I'll probably put up another photograph on the left hand side of the screen here so you can compare the original photo to how it turns out in the book. And there's the finished double page spread with Di and John from the Red Lion. Only one more character to go in there, that's Donna, who was in the photographs as well, and we'll be painting that and putting that on Facebook in the next few days. And there's a close-up. Okay, Di and everybody else, I hope you enjoyed watching that little demonstration of how we take I don't always do this. I mean, usually I draw my characters straight from imagination, but because I wanted to get some actual real people into the book, in this instance I took a photograph and from that developed a little pencil sketch. It doesn't look exactly like the person, but I think you can tell who it is, who it's supposed to be, and it captures the flavour of that person, and it's a bit of fun. And from that we do a little, you've seen the whole thing, photocopy and trace that onto the watercolour paper. It's just a way, the tracing is just a way of transferring your original design onto a medium which you can use for painting and so on. And in a few days' time, Di, I'm going to be popping this onto a proper piece of mounting card, and I'll pop it down for you so you can take it away and keep it forever and ever and ever. Hang it on your wall if you want, and then you can tell friends, family, children, grandchildren, whoever, I'm in a children's book. Yes, there I am. Okay folks, well thanks for watching, and watch out for details, because I'm looking for, I've got other double page spreads like this where I've earmarked spaces for other characters. I'd like to get some local characters in there, so if you're interested, watch out for Facebook, watch Facebook in the next few days, or there's contact details at the end of this if you want to direct message me and ask about how to get in the book, and I'll email you or message you back and that sort of business. Okay, one more character to go and then that double page spread is finished, so the next video will be painting Donna, and then that's the Red Lion staff complete. Okay, folks, thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, here's Squiggly Pete. My name is Squiggly Peter, and I loves my fish and chips. I love that salt and vinegar, what dribbles down me lips. And when I'm out there pirating, my pencil in my hand, I draw myself whenever I need or whatever comes to hand. Squiggly Pete, Squiggly Pete, Squiggly Pete, Squiggly Pete, Squiggly Pete, arr, the pirate.